So Season 1 of The War Within has finally been fully released, so all the content's been released and all difficulties of all of that content has been released. But one thing I've noticed is that a lot of players are pretty confused on the upgrade system and a lot of the endgame crafting, especially when it comes to embellishments. So I want to go over all the information you need on the endgame upgrading and crafting systems. And I think we need to start with the endgame gear upgrading system and the resources used within this system. So once you get to level 80, pretty much all of the gear you're going to be obtaining is going to be upgradable, and it's going to be in one of the 5 different upgrade brackets or gear tracks. And the easiest way to determine what track that piece of gear is on is just to look at the item. It will tell you what gear track it's on, and you'll also be able to easily tell by its item level. So starting from the bottom, we have the Explorer track, which items start at 558 and are upgradable up to 580. Then we have the Adventurer track, which starts at 571 and can be upgraded to 593. We have the Veteran track, which starts at 584, can be upgraded to 606. The Champion track, which starts at 597, can be upgraded to 619. The Hero track, which starts at 610, can be upgraded to 626. And the Myth track, which starts at 623 and can be upgraded to 639. Now you may have noticed that these upgrade tracks share item levels at certain points. So let's say you have a piece of Veteran gear that starts at 584, you could upgrade it to 606, but Champion gear, which is the next track up, starts at 597. So you could have a Veteran piece of gear that's a higher item level than a Champion piece. But the Champion piece, if you upgrade it, will be able to get a much higher item level at the high end. Now you have 2 different endgame resources that are used within the system to upgrade any piece of gear. Starting off, you have Valor Stones, which are universal, so they're used in every upgrade track, and you're able to get these from anything you do at level 80, whether that be collecting dirt all the way up to killing mythic raid bosses. Even just doing random side quests, you'll be able to obtain Valor Stones from all of the content you're doing. And then you have crests. Now crests come in 4 different forms, and these are going to be heavily connected to the different upgrade tracks for your pieces of gear. So starting from the bottom, we have Weathered Harbinger Crest, then we have Carved Harbinger Crest, then Runed Harbinger Crest, and then finally Gilded Harbinger Crest. Now there's not 5 crests, so they're not directly connected to the upgrade tiers, but as you get higher item level gear on higher upgrade tracks, you have to continue to get the higher tier of crests. And you can easily find what content drops these crests if you just go into your currency tab, scroll over the different crests. It'll give you some information on where you can get these. More specifically, it will usually tell you what difficulty of dungeons or raids you have to go complete to get that tier of crests. So by using a mix of Valor Stones and any of these different tiers of crests, you can upgrade your gear. But I think this is where the system gets very confusing for a lot of players. So as a way to make the system much more simple, you can think of it like this. Valor Stones upgrade the gear, and crests upgrade the slot of that gear. And that may sound confusing, but let's look at an example. So right here, I have 2 606 item level trinkets. So if I put one of these trinkets into the upgrader, you'll see I can upgrade it up to 610. This would be a Champion track piece of gear. It would go from Champion track 4 to Champion track 5, and it would go from 606 to 610. And the price would be 140 Valor Stones and 15 Runed Harbinger crests. So this is just taking my resources and upgrading an item. But because you have so many different slots and you may be getting other pieces of gear that are better, you may feel like you're wasting your resources, but that's not really the case. The only resource you can really waste are Valor Stones. So I have a 593 trinket here that's Veteran 4 of 8. If I put this into the upgrader, you'll see I can upgrade it from 4 of 8 Veteran up to 5 of 8 Veteran, but the costs are going to be quite a bit different. So first off, the cost is only going to be 60 Valor Stones. If you scroll over this, it'll actually tell you that the Valor Stones are reduced, but you can see because the number next to it is green, meaning it's being reduced by some amount. It's being reduced because someone on my warband has had an item at higher item level than that. Now this doesn't mean that it's an item you upgraded to that point. If I went and got like a 610 trinket and equipped it, that slot would now be 610. So it's not just upgrading, it's also just obtaining higher level pieces of gear. But this trinket I can upgrade for only 60 Valor Stones and 0 crests because my slot is 2 to a higher item level, you don't spend any crests to get other items up to that item level. So I could upgrade this trinket up to 606 and it would only cost 240 Valor Stones because one of the characters on my warband has gotten an item to that item level, which will also mean that every other character on my warband, if they want to go upgrade a trinket up to 606, it will have a Valor Stone discount. But because I have an item on this character at 606, it will also cost 0 crests to get up to that point. Because again, crests upgrade the slot, Valor Stones upgrade the item. So when you're looking at the long term of upgrading your gear through a season, you are not really wasting resources. You can waste Valor Stones, but you can get those from doing everything and you can farm an infinite amount of those, but you're not wasting crests. And one of the main reasons people say you'll be wasting crests in the system is because crests are capped. If you look at these rune crests right here, I can only get 160 of them until next week when the cap is increased. And the main reason people will say you're wasting crests is just because you're being less efficient with your upgrades. Because even if I use my crests on upgrading this trinket slot, my other slots would not be upgraded to that. So if I upgraded my trinket right here and then I want to go upgrade a belt, I would still need crests for the belt. And the main way you want to be being super efficient with your upgrades is using your crests on less valuable slots first. So for instance, if I went and upgraded my wrists, that would probably be one of the worst upgrades I could do because it still costs 15 crests, but wrist pieces or bracers have some of the lowest stats of any item. So it would be much better if I went and upgraded like a chest piece. That is the same upgrade costs in terms of crests, but chests give a lot more stats. Or even more so, I could upgrade my weapon for the same amount of crests as my chest or my bracers, but it would be a much bigger overall upgrade. Even if I want to upgrade my trinket, that would be in a similar vein. And on top of this, your trinkets and your rings are a shared slot. So if I upgrade one trinket to 610, that's just my trinket slot going to 610. So if I upgraded that one trinket to 610, I could go upgrade the other one and the second one when it costs crests because the trinket slot is already upgraded to 610. So rings and trinkets are pretty good items to upgrade earlier on in a similar vein to your weapon or something with really high stats like a chest piece. Now looking past the upgrade system, we have another piece of endgame gearing, which is crafted gear, and more specifically, crafted gear with embellishments, which were called work orders. And basically all this is you can go to an NPC and you can put up orders to get crafters to craft something for you. And through this work order system, you could also get crafters to make you bind on pickup items, which is how you're now able to get endgame gear through the crafting system. And a very important part of this are embellishments. Now, embellishments in the most simple terms is adding a special effect or proc to a crafted piece of gear, but you can only have 2 pieces of crafted gear with embellishments on them equipped at a time. And this also means that let's say you get super late into the end game and you want to have full best in slot gear, most of the time that will include 2 crafted pieces of gear with embellishments on them. And if you want to know what the best embellishments for your class is, I would recommend looking up something like Wowhead or Icy Veins. They'll always have the best items for you to go craft and the best embellishments for you to get. Now, some embellishments just come on the crafted item, but some other embellishments just come off of items that you add into the crafting recipe, which adds that embellishment to the item. So to give a bit more information on this entire system, I'm going to take you through the process of crafting an embellished piece of gear. Now, when looking to get a piece of endgame crafted gear, the first thing you're going to need is a Spark of Omens. And this item is going to be limited on how many you can obtain. I think this week you'll be able to have 3 of these if I'm not mistaken. And you can get these from doing pretty much any endgame content. You'll be able to get a Fractured Spark of Omens, which you need 2 of to craft a Spark of Omens. And once you get 1, there'll be a quest in Dornegal, which you turn in that 1 Fractured Spark and they'll give you 2. And it's basically a tutorial quest to tell you about the system. And these Sparks of Omens are basically the item that allows you to turn crafted gear into endgame crafted gear. These are going to be part of the recipe to get the item crafted, and it's going to turn that item into a higher item level piece of gear at a baseline. So you're not going to be able to just go get an infinite amount of endgame crafted gear. You need these Spark of Omens. And the second thing you're going to want to get is an Enchanted Crest. Now, basically what this is another modifier to the item level of that crafted piece of gear. So the Spark of Omens is what turns it into a base endgame piece of gear, and then the Enchanted Crest allows you to further augment how high item level that gear is going to be. Now, the first thing you're going to need to do is go to the vendor, which is located next to the Enchanting Trainer in Dornegal, and this vendor is going to sell you 3 different Nescent Harbinger crests. You have the Nescent Weathered Harbinger crest, the Runed, or the Gilded, and these are going to take different amount of crests, but they're also going to determine what item level that piece of gear can go to. So if you want the Nescent Weathered Harbinger crest, which is going to be the lowest tier 1, it's going to cost 30 weathered crests. If you want the Nescent Runed Harbinger crest, that's going to be the second to highest tier, and that's going to cost 45 rune crests. Or if you want the highest item level possible, which will probably be really hard to get for most players, you would get the Nescent Gilded Harbinger crest, which will take 90 gilded crests, which is also a reason why most people won't have a max item level piece of crafted gear this early, because it's a lot of crests. And also keep in mind, when you're getting a piece of gear crafted, there is also a recrafting system you can do where you can take that piece of gear you got crafted, you can go back to the work order, there is a recrafting section where you can basically use a lower amount of resources to get the item recrafted, and you can also use a higher Nescent Harbinger crest in that recrafting to upgrade its item level later down the road. So getting this piece of gear crafted at a lower item level to start isn't a big waste, because you can just use a bit of additional resources later down the road to increase its item level, because crafted gear is also not on the upgrade track like normal pieces of gear are. So after you picked up your Nescent Harbinger crest, whichever tier it is, you're then going to need to get that crafted into an Enchanted Harbinger crest. So you're going to go over to the work order NPCs, you're going to search up the enchanted version of these crests, and you're going to start a work order to get your Enchanted crest. Now, these are just going to take some base resources, and keep in mind, there is not different qualities of an Enchanted crest. So the resources required to get your crest enchanted don't need to be a higher quality of resource. So just get the cheapest quality for the resources you're needing. So now I have my 2 Spark of Omens and I have my Enchanted crest. Now I can go to the recipe for the item I actually want crafted. And I need 2 Spark of Omens because I'm getting a 2-handed weapon crafted. If you're only getting a 1-handed weapon or any other piece of gear crafted, you only need that 1 Spark of Omens. So you're then going to go to the crafting order system and you're going to search up the item you want. And again, I'd recommend going to Wowhead or Icy Veins to see the best items to get crafted for whatever spec you're playing. But I want the Everforged Great Axe, so it's going to cost 2 Spark of Omens. It's going to cost 1 Superb Beast Fang. It's going to cost 1 Storm Touch Weapon Wrap, which does have a quality. It's going to cost 8 Sanctified Alloy, which also has a quality, and 2 Iron Claw Ally, which also has a quality. Now, any of the resources needed in crafting these items that have a quality on them is somewhat important, because when that item is actually crafted, it will have a quality on it. The quality is what will determine its item level. Now, the Spark of Omens and the Enchanted Crest we got make sure the item is at a minimum item level, but increasing it past that point is all determined on the item's quality. And there's a lot that goes into the item's quality. It depends on the crafter's skill, if they've specialized into crafting that item, and the quality of the resources used in the craft. So with all the resources I'm using to craft this Great Axe, if I got it at max quality, it would be 619 item level. And the lowest it can go is, I think, 606. So keep in mind, you can get a pretty big item level increase getting a good crafter and using the highest quality of materials. But remember, you can also go recraft that item at a later date to get its item level increased. Now, on top of all those base resources, there's also going to be 2 more additional things you can add into it. There is a missive, which allows you to determine the stats that are going to be on that item. So for my Great Axe, I put a missive that gives me haste and mastery. These missives also have a quality, so you're going to want the highest quality of that as well. And then if you're wanting an embellishment, you would also want to add an embellishment item, which will add one of those unique effects to the item, and that will also have a quality. So the embellishment I'm adding on this Great Axe is called Ascendance. So every 8 seconds I'm in combat, I'll gain a stack of Ascendance, which will give me some secondary stats stacking up to 10 times. And this would be one of my 2 embellishments I could have equipped. So I would go to the work order system, I would get all of those resources and items we just went over, and I would start a crafting order for this axe to be made. And there's a couple ways you can go about this. If you know a crafter, or if you get a crafter through trade chat, you can have someone else craft it, or you can just put up a public crafting order. Now, if you get someone like in your guild or someone you know or someone from trade chat and you put a personal crafting order to them, you can specify the minimum quality you want the item to be at. So if you want it to be quality 4, you could put a minimum of quality 4 so they wouldn't be able to like take all of your resources and craft a lower quality item. But if you put the item for public crafting order, it could be any quality. Now keep in mind, with our Enchanted Crest and our Spark of Omens, it will always have a minimum item level, but with public crafting orders, you can't guarantee the quality. As mentioned, you can go back and recraft it later and get a higher quality recraft of that same item. So when it's all said and done and I've gotten someone to craft this item for me, it will then be sent to my mailbox, and now I would have this pretty high item level piece of endgame crafted gear with one of my 2 embellishments on it, which would be a pretty massive upgrade. Because like I mentioned, these embellishments are just additional to the items. You're not like removing any stats to get this special effect. You can just have 2 embellishments equipped at the same time that just gives you additional effects, whether that be a stat increase proc or a proc of additional damage, or healers getting a proc of additional healing. This would just be an additional proc that gives you more power in some way. So that's pretty much all you need to know for the endgame upgrading, crafting, and embellishment systems. So hopefully you're much less confused after watching this video than you were previously. But that's all I want to go over, so thanks for watching.